dying every day. We all look for something we can never find. And we all need peace of mind. A lonely wretch on the street looking for love. $20 beneath the sheets. Is this all she thinks of? We all look for something.
3, 2, 1.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Truth, Lies, and Political Bullshit, the podcast that cuts through all of the nonsense and gets right down to the heart of all the issues that matter the most to you. I'm your host, Sean Morris. You know my good friend, co-host, Timmy T. Thibodeau. And today we're going to have a special guest joining us. But before we do that, I would ask you to please like, join, subscribe, become part of this podcast. We're growing like there is nobody's business, and it's quite exciting. So please take a minute, jump over, and subscribe. Timmy, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, pretty good, Sean. There, August 21. Outside, though, the last few days to me feels like fall outside.
Yeah, it looks like the summer is quickly fading away, isn't
Yeah,
it?
been really, really busy, and but always have time to come on a Wednesday night.
Yeah, well, hey, listen, we were telling people that we were going to get our podcast was starting to grow, and it was going to get bigger, better. We built a studio, which is almost complete. New equipment, new everything. So let's hope that we have no more excuses why we freeze or or the wires fall or whatever happens. But I'm excited. I know everybody else is excited. Had a lot of people, who hit us up telling us that they were excited that we were getting bigger and expanding. So, hey, tonight we're going to have a special guest. And it's an honor to have Sheriff Craig Apple come back on to the podcast. You know, he was on a couple of weeks ago, and we had a conversation about raise the age and a conversation about bail reform, but we really didn't have a chance to get into the nuts and bolts of the true effects that we are seeing because of raise the age and bail reform, not only in the capital district, but across the country. But,
Sure.
What's great interest to us is our 4 little square miles called Cohoes, New York.
Yeah.
Now, we know that just in 3 weeks, we had not only Cohoes cops, but they had to be joined by like 6 other agencies because of all of these crazy fights and the crime that's exploding in this small little city. And when Sheriff Apple comes on, I'm really interested in asking him about what can be done, because the city of Cohoes has come up with just one standard, and that's, there's nothing we can do.
Look at Sean, real quick on this, okay? All this stuff that's going on over there in Chicago right now, they're arresting these people, and you know what they're coming out and saying? We're not going to charge anybody. Okay, and that's where I think the problem really begins. Okay, you arrest somebody, and then they don't get charged. There's no accountability, and maybe the sheriff will be able to shed some light on that for us tonight.
Yeah, I think he will, because I think it's just getting sickening from our little city standpoint, where no matter what happens, you raise the concern. You have a mayor who tells you if you don't like it, move to another city if you don't feel safe. You had this big group of people go to one of the last public safety meetings, and it was really just a dog and pony show. The mayor sits there, doesn't say a whole hell of a lot. You got the other chief of police trying to explain his position, yet, his position is what the mayor's telling him to do. So wouldn't it have been better if the mayor come out and said, this is what we're doing. This is the policing strategies that I implemented. The police chief will carry them out, and this is why we are a better city. That's what people
there played second fiddle, Sean.
Yeah, people want to hear the boss, the leader, tell us what you're doing.
And keep in mind, as I said last week, okay, he created the new position of public safety commissioner, and then he got rid of the person put in place for that. So he is now public safety commissioner. Ultimately, it's him over the police chief, actually. And who was
Yeah.
doing the talking? The
Yeah,
chief.
it's kind
It's
of just
backwards.
it's just kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It really is because I
Hmm.
mean, it's
And I
not
don't think the people gained anything from that meeting. What was gained?
well, Timmy, nothing was gained. Nothing was gained. I
And that's why
mean,
it was a dog and pony show.
the reason nothing was gained is because you had a mayor who almost sat there like, how dare you people even come here and try to,
It was
you know,
just for optics, okay? It was
yeah,
that's
like
all it was, optics. Okay, we're doing something while we're not doing anything.
yeah, it reminds me of like don't look behind that curtain. Pay attention up
Yeah,
here. Like you got to listen to this police chief because he knows everything that's going on, and that's bullshit, and it's really problematic. And so I think our goal tonight would be ask Craig, have the sheriff of Albany County talk a little bit more about the raise the age, but more importantly, what is he doing?
hmm
We see a presence of his outstanding officers, his sheriffs in Albany, right?
yeah,
You hear
yeah,
Cohoes residents crying out, saying, we'd love to have the sheriff come to Cohoes. That's going to happen because once people see the outstanding work he's doing in Albany, if you have a problem in your city, they all want to start yelling, come to our city. And I don't think it's that easy, but it's something I'd love to talk to them about as well. So it looks like we have, it looks like maybe the sheriff is here, Timmy. Hang on a
yeah. He
second.
is.
Let's
I can
see.
see him.
Sheriff,
Yeah,
how are you?
welcome
Good,
aboard.
good.
Yep.
It seems that you had a little episode. Every time you're getting ready to come on our show, something's going on. I send him a message. I say, Sheriff, you ducking me? Where the hell are you?
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
I can't find you.
It's been a rough 7, 8 months, and here we are heading into September already. It's hard to believe, honestly.
Well,
Yeah.
I think it's probably been a rough way. Let me just say, so what is it, about like 1986, 87? You got involved in becoming a Albany County sheriff? And then
November
what
80.
was it, 2011 maybe you became the
Yeah,
sheriff?
November 87 I joined, and 11 I became the sheriff.
So really, it's not just been
Wow.
a tough week. It's been about
It's
30,
been
40 years.
it's been over half my life.
Yeah. Hey, I do love your background, though.
Hey, Sheriff, look, we appreciate you coming on. I know that you're busy. I want you to know that you had one of the biggest audiences that we had in our podcast. Well
Hmm.
over 55,000 people tuned in to watch the show and watched it over the course of 30 days because, it really matters to the people today is how safe is my community? How safe are my kids? How safe are my grandkids? Now, I can't imagine that you've been paying a great deal of attention, but you do know that Cahoes over the course of the last month had a couple big episodes where
Right.
our officers plus about seven other agencies have to
Hmm.
come to the city, and um, and that's because we've had some real big fights,
They
and
called
we're
it a
having
girl fight.
and we're having a lot of crime. But
Yeah.
it goes back to this, Sheriff: 16, 17 year olds raise the age, and the only thing the city says to the residents is there's nothing we can do. Now, I'm a firm believer that there's always something you can do,
We hear
whether
that a
that be
lot.
whether that becomes you becoming the advocate from your pulpit screaming that our cities are being crushed by these policies, whether it's, hey, keep arresting them, whether it's go after their parents, use child protective, something has to be able to, deter this kind of crime. Plus, we put in some policies back when I was in office that if you have a nuisance property where you're selling drugs or there's people
Hmm.
getting arrested all the time, we can actually pull your permits and throw you out without having to go through a very tedious eviction process, right?
Right, right.
So let me just let us turn it over to you. And can you just kind of tell us what you believe this raise the age is doing, and what do you believe can be done other than there's nothing you can do? Because I don't believe that.
Well, I don't like to hear that either. Quite honestly, there's nothing we can do. There's always something that we can do, and that's one of the things that I've told all my staff since June of 11. Take the word no out of the vocabulary, figure it out. There's something that we can do. And but let me jump back to raise the age. Raise the age is a disaster, Sean. This again is another one of those state deals where they threw it out there and then said, well, we'll have to figure it out later, but here's what we're going to do. And it's no different than all the other failed policies and reforms with bail and halt and discovery and you name it. And this is why I always say, just have us sit down with you and we'll work it out. Get all of the law enforcement executives together and get the probation and parole, everybody, and let's all work on this collaboratively, as opposed to say, I'm the king and this is what's going to be done, and there's all kinds of money coming with it. And that was the first lie. There was no money that came with it. They are just now, years later, what's this, like 6 years later? They are just now almost done with the pod over at Juvenile Detention Center, which was built way too small to begin with. And then when that pod's finished, Sean, they still can't open it because they've got to renovate the others. So it'll be probably another year or so. And what that does is then when you arrest a young individual, instead of putting them in the juvie detention center, which is, I hate to say it, it's kind of like the baby jail. It's kind of a violent baby jail. Instead of doing that, now the judges are just like, all right, we'll go to probation Monday morning, whatever. I was just told this week that a family court judge kicked somebody out on the street for a robbery. And so it's the policies and the reforms are, I find fault with, but also if you have the people in the robes not doing what needs to be done, then you're just totally set up for failure, right?
Yeah.
What Raise the Age was supposed to do is if you arrested somebody that was 16 and 17 years old, because I believe, and I'm not 100% with this, I believe New York and North Carolina were the last two states in the union that still put 16s and 17s in the adult jail with the 18s and ups. So 16s and 17s now would get sent down to family court unless it was something super heinous. And then they would, the judge would make a determination and probably would go to the juvenile detention center. That's not happening either. And also to keep them out of the juvenile detention center, there were supposed to be all kinds of programs with probation and ankle bracelets and additional probation officers and all of these, wonderful programs that are going to reform these young individuals and keep them from becoming an inmate in the future. That didn't happen either because there were no monies, there were no nothing. So the county was doing the best they could, but the state never gave the dollars that were supposed to do this. Then not only did they pretty much, was that a boondoggle? Then they went and said, well, submit plans and we can reimburse you accordingly if it fits what we feel needs to be done. That didn't fit either. That didn't work either. So again, this is a state failure. All right. It's a total
As
state
with
failure.
most
As with
things.
most, yes. So, but what's happening is that a lot of police officers on the street feel, pardon the pun, kind of handcuffed that, well, what the hell am I doing this for? Because these kids, they're just going to be told, go to probation Monday, go to probation Tuesday, whatever the case may be. So they won't, a lot of them don't prosecute or give an arrest appearance ticket or anything to.
They won't even take a report.
Yeah,
about
I
a police
don't, there's no
and
reason
they're
for
saying
that.
yeah, and we see this. I see this happening right here in Cohoes. They say we're not going to bother even taking a complaint because we're going to send it up to the judge. He's just going to throw it out.
See, I've got a different mindset with that where I want all the
Hmm.
reports because then I can take all those reports and go, look at shit wasn't done with this. And this is
Yeah,
why we're saying it's a failure. See all of these arrests that we have
sure.
documented. If you don't take a report, you really can't, scream and yell if you don't have anything to back it up. And I
That's
want
my
to be
point.
able
My
Yes,
point is, even if, and I don't believe this, but even if the only thing that the leader of a city, a county, a town could do was advocate, they would need
yeah,
all of that documentation to hold it up
yes,
and
yeah.
say, look at what this is what's happened in our city, and it's all because of you, and you
Well,
guys
listen,
got to help.
It's no different than when you were the chairman of the legislature, right? We go in front of you with a budget, and I need documentation to ask for what
Yes.
I'm asking for. If I want extra deputies, why do I want extra deputies? Well, I want extra deputies because this year we're handling literally 25,000 more calls than we did last year, and
Yeah.
I need people. So, I mean, the documentation is key, but there's other things that you can do. You can saturate areas. You can do directed patrols. Maybe it is a matter of asking the sheriffs or the state police, not just us, but the state police, whomever, to come in and do some special details. I mean, that's really what we started out in Albany City doing. Were just some special details, and it's kind of involved to or evolved to. Now there's, I got 20 young men and women down there that are doing a marvelous job
Yeah.
grabbing guns, drugs, and other felons, bail jumping, whatever the case may be.
Yeah. I think one of the problems that I see is that it's not easy to go into somebody else's territory without at least somebody feeling like my toes are being stepped on, right?
Yeah, true.
Albany police are fantastic. They deal with crime that most of us can only imagine. The capital city of New York, to me, is one of the most dangerous places in the country based on the size and the amount of people that are getting shot and killed and stabbed and punched and kicked and robbed. And 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 no matter what they try to do as cops, the leadership is what really rules, right? The mayor of a city
Right,
is going to dictate to her chief what she wants. If she says I want 150 cops walking the beat every night, 150 cops will walk the beat, right?
right,
So when I
right.
look at these policies, I say the state legislature has always been the failure. Then these very liberal mayors across the country don't want to like piss off their legislature because they're all part of the same party. So they just go with the flow. Nobody's got the courage to stand up to their own convictions. And I got to be honest, you have done that. You've stood up
Well,
against the governor when you said, "Hey, I see something that I think is wrong. I'm going to speak." You go to Albany. I'm sure that Kathy probably invited you in Albany. You didn't just go in there. Maybe you did. I don't know. I'd love to know how this all happened. Everybody's waiting to say, how did the sheriff get into Albany? Was he invited, or is it because he's the sheriff of the capital and has the power to just go in and do it?
so it was kind of a two-pronger. We've been in there for a number of years now.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's kind of
My
crazy to
son, my
think.
son used to be on your department.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so initially we started out doing some joint patrols with the city PD, and it just wasn't really working out. I wanted the guys out on the street. The whole purpose of sending them in there was to get out there and do street encounters, talk to
Yeah.
people, get information, find drugs, find guns, who's got the guns, where are the guns coming from. So eventually we just started sending our own cars in with just our deputies, and they got really busy, and it's just I've been constantly adding to it, and now I have again 20 young men and women. We've literally created a station. We're down there to augment them. We're never going to replace the city PD. Listen, the city
No,
PD works their butts off.
no, they're
They've got
fantastic.
some, yes, they've got some great officers down there that are working hard. They're short, Sean. So we went into augment. I don't want to be handling calls. You know what I mean? I don't want people calling us. We don't want to do calls for service. We
Right.
want to do some of the proactive stuff and go after, all the ghost
Traffic
cars.
stops.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the ghost cars and the paper plates and the dirt bikes and all these young hoodlums that are running around with guns that, we grabbed the guy last week, 18-year-old kid who had 39 rounds in a magazine. I've never even seen a magazine like that, quite honestly. I was like,
Wow,
wow.
39 rounds.
39 rounds. I mean, yesterday we grabbed a guy with a 9 millimeter with 50 rounds of 380. I mean, the gun would fire. It's not going to fire properly. You're going to have to rack it back by hand, but they don't know that. But it's just and it's evolved now into a regular station. I've got investigators down there that are working informants, and they're working with the FBI. Last night they were out with probation. Last week they were out with parole, and we're doing a lot of stuff that the city PD just can't do right now because of manpower and because they're running from call to call to call. I mean, Sean, I'm sitting in my office this morning at, I think it was like 9:30 ish, somewhere around there, and a guy got shot on Washington
Yeah. I was
Avenue.
just going to say to you, there
And
was
I'm
a
like,
shooting this
Jesus.
morning.
Yeah, I'm like,
Nine
here we
o'clock in the
go.
morning. What do you? I
Yeah.
mean, can you get up and be that angry at 9 o'clock in the morning? I mean, you didn't have a
Well,
coffee yet, and you're out there shooting people.
I
I
don't know if
don't
it's
get
a
it.
matter of them getting up or they're on their way home or what, because
Well,
quite
yeah,
honestly, a
better
lot of the guns that we've
be on the way
grabbed
home.
have been pre-noon. They've been pre-noon where we're grabbing guns.
So let me ask you this question. I think me and Timmy talked about this off the show. Um, was there a conflict? How does the police in Albany feel about the sheriff there? Is there a conflict? Are
Yeah.
they welcoming to you? Did it start out with, "Hey, we don't need you," but now it's, "Hey, we're glad you're here"? Tell us a little bit about how that works.
So I don't want to say they're happy we're there, but I also don't think I think they know that we're there to help, and
Yeah,
back each other up and get the job done, right? Keep people
yeah,
safe. That's all that people want to feel. I mean, there's a lot of people walking around that don't feel safe. I mean, I see people all the time tell me, "Oh, I don't go down there anymore. I don't go down there. I don't go to this restaurant. I don't go to that meat
yeah,
shop." I mean, there's some beautiful old places down there that rely on outside of Albany residents coming into the city to support their business, and that's taking a hit. I think, listen, I'm not naive to think that they want us to stay forever. I think the fact of the matter is that it's everybody wants to protect their turf. I think it's important that they realize that, we're not looking to take over the city PD or
right.
anything like that. We're looking to come in and augment and get the job done. What's happening, and the other thing that I'm glad that we're in the city for is because a lot of a lot of things that happen in the city spread to the other communities. You see it in Cohoes, you see it in Bern and Knox.
Yeah,
I mean, you see it in Colony. I mean, my wife has a business in the town of Colony. I've seen the transition over the last few years. So, that's the other thing that people need to keep in mind, that we can help stop the spread of some of this. But the other fact of the matter is, quite honestly, is that we are in fact the county sheriff's office, and we have complete jurisdiction to do this.
yeah, yeah. Have you ever thought about? Have you ever sat back and said, you know what, I see some stuff happening in other cities, Cohoes, Watervliet. I'm going to talk to their leaders and let them know that we're going to maybe come in and do some, street, just driving down the street, show some presence just so people know there's, other cops around, that it's not just Cohoes has got 3 cars tonight. And once they go past the street, they won't be back for 45 minutes. One of the policing strategies that I put in place was to never let the bad guy know when we were coming
Right.
or where we would
Right.
be. And back when you have 3 cars in the small city, they'd go, "All right, it's 8 o'clock. They don't come back till 9:15." They'd have you pinned to a time, right? So
So
we
I got
mixed
it.
it up.
It's funny you say that, because it didn't take long when we first went into Albany. It didn't take long for the bad guys to know when we were working and when we were not.
Yeah, they're smart.
It was amazing. I'm like, damn, that was fast. How did they
Yeah,
catch on to that? So
yeah,
then we had to. So that whole detail down there works a very, very bizarre schedule, but it works. It's good for them, and it's also good for administration. So we go with it. But it's funny. They do. They figure it out, and you've got to constantly be jockeying and shuffling.
yeah,
We talk to, listen, any city, town, village that calls, we will help any way we can. I think I've made that point clear to everybody. But we're also somewhat restricted with personnel as well.
yeah,
The one thing that I'm blessed with is that I've got an awesome legislature that's like, you know what, keep doing what you're doing, and we'll fund you, any way we can.
yeah,
And that's important, because without them, I'd be out of money probably by now. By now, I'd have to pull cars and everything else. So they've been awesome. Obviously our budget's gone up a little bit, and we did add some people last year. But we can also get out, and we can shift people around. We got a big agency, and a lot of people don't understand that. But we got hundreds of people that we can move around in a moment's notice. We're not
yeah.
like the state police big, but we're
No,
big for a county.
for the size of Albany, you guys are big, and I think I always say you're big enough to matter, small enough to care, which is what really good policing is, right?
That's important.
Yeah, you got to care about the communities, and everything isn't about just grabbing somebody, throwing them in prison, and saying "see you later." I understand all that, but when Timmy and I had John McDonald on, even John McDonald, who is a strong supporter of raise the age and bail reform, did admit to us that there was some issues that needed to be addressed. Now, I reached out to him via email, and he got back to me as he always does, pretty quickly. And they said they made some minor changes, but I didn't see nothing of substance.
Yeah, they're just they're tweaking a little bit. Listen, it's going to be ebbs and flows. Will we get it how we want it? Probably not. Um, but you know what? We have to keep trying, and that's all I keep asking. Like for our association, the Chiefs of Police Association, let's just keep talking to people and see if we can, continue to sit at the table and just explain, listen, before you pass something that makes no sense, let's just explain it. So then you don't have to, you don't have to tweak it. You don't have to,
Yeah.
have protesters and everything else. Listen, everybody's like, well, you know what? Crime is down and violent crime is down. Okay. Well, explain that to the young woman or the young man that just got shot. Go talk to his parents
Yeah.
about the violent crime being down.
So
Do-
I call
and what,
bullshit.
right.
Go ahead,
And a
Timmy. I
quick
want to jump in
question.
when you're
Yeah.
done.
And a quick question here. Do you see, with all these things going on, say a particular age group or a window in which most of these people
Yeah.
are involved in these type of crimes? Like Cahoes is having a lot of robberies lately. Okay,
So
break-ins, robberies.
there are some old school dudes that are getting out and not knowing what to do or where to go, and what
Hmm.
happens there? You just, that's what drives recidivism, right? They just reoffend. But for the most part, a lot of our problems are the early 20s, late teens, and some, for that matter, some younger teens. I don't know if you guys saw the article a few weeks back. 13-year-old kid standing across the street from probation with a revolver, pointing it at another kid coming out of probation.
Yeah, it's
So, I
crazy.
mean, that's
Yeah.
a 13-year-old kid, right? I mean, where did we
Yeah.
go wrong there?
Yeah.
And where did he
So,
get it?
yeah, exactly. So, those are some of the issues we have. And that's what makes me really nervous, Sean. Like you guys got a community center up there that's closed. I know the county executive is buying it and going to open it back up. But a few years back, Boys and Girls Club in Albany, who, take care of roughly 1,000 young individuals after school and during summer, almost closed. Broadview, at the time CEFCU, helped us out huge and got us, back up and running.
These are
How
societal problems, Sheriff.
they are
And
societal
we
problems, but if
could
you don't give these kids something to do after school, we're screwed.
I'm with you.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
I agree.
Here's the
Yep.
problem, though, and we could talk about. We could have 100 podcasts to talk about all the reason the world is upside down, right? But I used to advocate strongly for prevention money, right? Because I still believe that
Right.
every kid that I grew up with that was in the projects where that ended up in the community center that didn't end up in prison, right, or dead, was because John Domel, Joe Lutz, Robert Gully, Cahoes Community Center, right? We had a place to go. It wasn't bricks and mortar, wasn't the pool, wasn't the ping pong. It was the mentors, the people that you really looked up
Yeah.
to and said, geez, I don't want to do this because John or Joe will be upset with me, or Mr. Gully's going to yell at me when there was purpose, there was meaning. We don't have money anymore because we're spending, New York City is going to spend $5 billion on immigration,
Yeah.
right? Housing
Yeah.
immigrants that are out causing more crime than you can ever shake a stick at. Same ones over and over. And we can't seem to get out of our own way. But there's money for that, but there's no money for recreation and preventive things. We want to treat. We're always in the old, treat people, treat people, treat people. Well, guess what? I've watched people get treated 50, 60, 70 times and they still are drug addicts, right?
Yeah.
And we're pissing the
Yeah.
money away. I'm not saying that I have the answers, but here's what I do know. I know that cities, towns, villages, counties, they need to all collectively get together because the resources in one is not enough to cause an effect for all the problems in all of them, right? The cause and effect is far greater expensive than just the county can pay for, the city of Cahoes can pay for. But you're a Republican, I'm a Democrat, you're an independent. It's stupid. We just can't get along. And now I have a question for you. I know
Mhm.
you've been waiting for this because you say, son of a bitch, Sean, you get me on the show and then you throw a zinger. But let me just say it this way. I am not a fan of David Soares
Okay.
for personal reasons, okay?
Mhm.
For legitimate personal reasons that I think he helped my wife destroy herself. But at the same time, I said, if you have to vote between him and a very left liberal DA who's come out and said, I support raise the age, I support bail reform, you got to stick with David. Well, David got beat. He got beat because nobody votes anymore, and those who are strong liberals and strong pluralists that have their grip on their issue, they go out. But for the majority of people, they don't even give a shit, right? So
Right.
now you have a very liberal district attorney, a man who I don't dislike him, spent his whole life trying to get the criminal off of going to jail or getting at least the least amount of crime he could get away from him, so he didn't go for
Hmm.
jail or probation or whatever he was trying to do. But he was a defense attorney. Now he's going to be a prosecutor. How's that going to work? How do
I
you
don't
feel
know.
about it? I know you
Well,
supported David,
yeah, I supported David.
and McCoy
Listen,
supported. He supported the new
yes.
DA, right?
Listen, you know me, Sean. I'm a loyal guy, and I don't just wait to see which way the wind's going to blow and go that way with all just because a bunch of politicians did it. Um, I've had a professional relationship with David for well beyond my tenure as sheriff, and we've done some good things, and he's done some good things, and I was obligated to support him, and he has been very vocal to go out and try to make the changes in the things that are affecting our communities and the reasons that we have so much violence in our communities. And I know
Yeah.
everyone's going to throw data and analytics at us now, and I'm like, I don't live on data and I don't go by analytics. All right, I go by what's going on the street on a day-to-day basis. And though that's what you need to keep your focus on. There are victims out there. If somebody wants to say, well, there's fewer victims, okay, well, explain that to the victims we have, right? I had a lunch with Lee Kinlan. He said all the right things, you know. I listen. People are going to say what they got to say to get elected. I
Yeah.
just, I don't know what to expect. I know that he's committed to the job. He's got to still, he's got to win. But he seemed up to the challenge, and he said a lot that what he wants to do. And my concern is that we do have a violence problem. I know everybody likes to get out and talk about put on these rose-colored glasses and lenses and say everything's great here and we're going to do trails and parks and everything else. But what I try to instill in people is that if your city or your town is not safe, people don't give a damn about your projects. They're
Yeah,
not going there,
you're right.
right?
You're
They're
right.
not going there. And that's why I work my ass off every day with other chiefs and FBI. We meet, we're constantly working something with the FBI, the
Keep them away from
DEA,
my house, will you?
to to do the best we can do to keep our community safe. And that's my focus. The
Yeah.
rest of the stuff is just all just noise.
Look at using Timmy's using what Timmy just said a couple minutes ago.
Hmm.
That in Cohoes they won't even fill out a report. So
And,
if you
and,
try to get the
and
data
yeah,
and try to get the statistics about crime in Cohoes, you're going to think it's utopia. Because of course the data is going to show there's no crime. Of course the data is going to show that violent crime is not taking place. You know why? Because nobody's filing the data.
and you
And
know what?
so,
That's been going on for years, Sean. Years. This isn't recent. I could probably bring you back almost a decade.
well, here, we
Okay.
do know now that a lot of big cities don't report to the
Yep.
FBI. The FBI used to have the greatest
Right.
statistics in the world. They
Hmm.
could
It's
tell you
true.
everything that happened from
Yep.
jaywalking to a murder, right?
Yes.
So if 500 calls for something happen in Cohoes, guy's fighting with his wife, kid slaps another kid, guy throws a bottle, and at the end of the day, nobody gets arrested for any of those violent crimes, and the petty crimes never get even a report,
Because
then
they won't take the
statistics are going to
report.
show that
Yeah.
violent crime is
Right.
down.
You
And
It's
can't, yeah,
just,
you can't,
it's,
anybody that goes off of statistics today is being completely fooled. Everybody's doing that, especially the big cities.
of
I
course they are.
personally, I would flip that. I would report every single thing. And that's how you get monies and resources and everything else to get in and clean up your city and to get in and stop crime and to get more police on the street or more people want mental health advocates now. I have some. They do a great job. I was against the program at first. I'm like, oh my God, this is one of those things. And they got in and they're doing tremendous things. I didn't get defunded or anything like that. Actually, we got upfunded. And it's been good. But if you use the data the way it's supposed to be used and you submit what you're supposed to submit, I think it could have an advantage. People get nervous. They're like, "Oh my God, our arrests are. We have an uptick in arrests. We got an uptick in burgs and everything else." People don't take the reports. You don't know, right? So you're right. Everybody thinks that this one certain area, this district, that zone, whatever, is no crime or whatever. But yet you drive through it and it looks like Beirut.
Yeah,
So
and people are getting
Yeah.
the shit beat out of them, and
yeah,
people are getting mugged. Timmy, remember when we talked about
Yep.
when the thing happened in Cohoes at the funeral home, in front of the
Mhm.
funeral home?
Yeah.
There was actually people with baseball bats, and in one of
Yes.
the
wow,
videos, there's a punch thrown, boom, punched into the face, and the only thing they got arrested for was disorderly conduct.
Right.
So of
Well, it
course
was an
you're not going to think
assault.
there's an assault or a violent crime taking
Right.
place because they're not even arresting them for those type of crimes. It's
Right.
almost like, unfortunately, when people had cancer and died in the hospital during 9/11, they didn't say they died of cancer; they said they died of COVID,
yeah,
right? And it's the
Yeah.
same
yeah,
thing in the reverse factor here in
Yeah.
Cohoes. I'm sure it's in other cities. They're being told, unless it's something major, don't even worry about it because we're
Yeah.
not prosecuting them.
And I say this all the time. Okay. I can quote incident after incident, which people call me, contact me, and it starts with the police. The police itself are saying, look at, you know. We don't we're not taking a complaint in Cohoes. We have to make a phone call, then you have to go down to the station to actually file a complaint. Okay, you're going to meet them down there instead of having an officer drive to wherever you are at your house or wherever you're at. Okay, but it's cumbersome. It should be a lot easier just to get a
yeah.
complaint filed. But we you got to end up going down there, waiting for an officer to come in, say off of the street somewhere. Okay, take him off the street. Then he stands there or I should say, he or she stands there, and their mission seems to be to talk you out of filing a complaint. It
Yeah,
happens all the
that's
time.
I don't know how co-hosts their policy for reports are, but like we obviously send a car to their house because we don't want to take
Hmm.
that car out of the zone. You know what I
Right.
mean? That way he'll be there while he's taking your
Correct. It's
report.
right
He
in the
could,
zone where he works.
Yeah.
Correct.
yeah, and then he could go and respond if need be. But people do different things. We're covering a
Yeah.
lot of ground as well.
Here's another theory I have, and I think David Soares and Sean Morris, both of us, can contest to this. But in order to make change, you can't just have one guy or one gal from one city screaming, right? Because when you go against the flow and you're hanging out there by yourself, they kill you.
Hmm.
And I truly believe David, who I think has done a decent job, and especially as of late, because he recognizes how bad this raise the age bail reform is. He recognizes that family court in no way, it's a cesspool down there. In no way are they geared up to deal with crime. And they don't even want to deal with what they have. You're in and out in like 5 seconds. You can't talk to nobody. You try to talk to the lawyer, they push you away. The guardian, the kid's guardian pushes you away. It's really a cesspool. But David had the courage to go to the state legislature and say, you're doing things and you're hurting us.
Right.
And I think they killed them. I really do. I think they did what they did to me when I fought against them. They come after you, and you can't win, Sheriff. David got beat up by everybody who was once his friend.
Yeah, that bothered me.
Well,
Yeah, I
I
know.
I, I was there. It happened to me. I mean, people that I
Yeah.
that I helped my whole life when I needed them the most, and my family needed them. I was hung out to dry because I fought the good fight. I called Governor Cuomo the most corrupt governor in America. I didn't know they were going to play it on Newsnet Channel 9. And then the next day, the FBI knocked on my door. But the point is, it's not easy to fight the fight by yourself. So when I say that Cahoe's Keeler should be standing up screaming, he should, but he should be also advocating with all these other mayors that recognize the same thing, just like you do, get together as a group and stand united and say, listen, here's the deal. You're killing us. Because you guys in criminal justice have a different perspective of what you're trying to achieve than a legislature who's trying to get votes, right?
Right.
They're
Right.
trying to please a whole different group of people, and you're trying to address a whole bunch of different issues, and they clash. And they're going to continue to clash until people like you, who have always been a stand up guy, can get people together to try to make these changes. And if it doesn't happen, you ain't going to worry about statistics because we are going to be like Beirut. Our cities are going to be wrecked, destroyed. Our kids have
Well, the
got no
sheriff said it right,
hope.
and the sheriff said it last time. Okay, they're not out on the streets. These legislators. Okay,
No, because they
they're
have a whole
not out
different
on the
preview.
streets. They have no idea what these guys go through day in, day out.
Listen, I was a
I've
legislator. I was a
Mhm.
legislator on a smaller scale, and it was just as bad. I'd be like, "What are we doing? What? I
yeah.
don't understand. You're trying to make me vote for something I don't. Oh well, you know, it's good for this group and it's good for that group.
Yeah,
I was trying to cut funding for like programs that just kept taking people and who had, who had addiction and treating them over and over and over. And I
Yeah.
want to take some of that money and try to put it to programs to keep kids from getting addicted. You would have
But
thought that I was trying to steal someone's firstborn. They
the
want to
other
kill me.
problem, one of the problems that I have when you talk about funding is that you're taking one pot of money and you're slicing it so many different ways. And I think one of the this goes for the county too. I mean, I think the county should even get better with this. And we don't have to fund everybody, right? There's
Yeah,
programs out there that are just a goddamn mess. Let's be
yeah.
real.
And I've
hmm
never
But
produced
we
anything.
still fund them. I think we need to look at the programs that are working and either have these other people collaborate and do something jointly. But you know what it is? It's all about money, right? Nobody wants
Yeah,
to give up their fiefdom, and
absolutely.
and they're going
Seen
to
it.
lose out. But in the meantime, the only ones that suffer are the constituents out there.
Yeah, yeah. You're right. There's so many programs that are deeply rooted, especially the county, right? Because they're the social safety network. So
Yeah.
everybody who's
Mm.
got some kind of bullshit, I'm not a big fan of a lot of them. And someday I'm going to try to have some conversations with people off the record and identify some of these programs because I want to go after them and shed light on what they really are. I don't know. One of them is this whole, and maybe you'll disagree but this whole snug program makes me quiver because I drive by the office down there in Arbor Hill. There's never a day that the lights are on, the doors unlocked, and the shades are up. And I go, what the hell are they doing? Yet they got salaries and they got jobs. And I don't know what they really do. And when I was in the legislature, I don't know what they really did. Maybe they do something, but maybe they need to do it a little better because a lot of people don't know what they do.
Yeah,
And there's
get their
other
message
programs.
out
That's
there.
that's not the only
Yeah.
one. I just think programs need to have a good message so that we can realize that they're successful or they're not. And if they don't come to the legislature with proof of success, then start sending the money somewhere else to programs that have success.
Let me tell you
Because
something real quick, Sean, if I could, because this I do. I'll go off on this tangent for hours. The main reason that we started the freaking homeless shelter is because a there's homeless everywhere. They're all over the community now. They're panhandling, they're stealing, they're robbing, they're retail theft, you name it. The problem is, and then when you get into a homeless shelter, and if you get a job while you're in there to try to get out of there, you've got to pay money to the homeless shelter. And it just seems like it sets you up for failure. And I'm like, what? Everybody, we don't get money from anybody but our budget. We don't get grants. We don't get this, that, the other, and anything. We got money last 3 years ago from Paul Tonko to help renovate some areas inside the one homeless shelter that we can, so we can increase it. And now, now I can put up to 100 people in there if we had to. We're taking mothers and children now, Sean. How bad is that? Nobody wants to go to my homeless shelter. It's next to the county jail. You know what I mean? But I mean, it's a safe
but it's
place,
a safe
and
place for them to go.
Yeah.
we've got tremendous success. I tell everybody that works up there, I'm like, we should write a manual and pass it out to people. This is how you do it. But it would exploit everybody that's got one. So it's really bothersome, and it seems like very few people really want to do the right thing.
Well, let me tell you something, Sheriff. You've always done the right thing. I've enjoyed working with you all the years that I was there. I always thought you were not only were you a gentleman, but you're an intelligent gentleman who focuses his skills on one set of being a law enforcement agent, and within that pigeonhole, there's 1,000 things you've come up with,
Yeah.
and I think you just won sheriff of the year, right?
Yeah. Actually,
And so congratulations. I
thank
think
you.
that's awesome out of Albany
Yeah.
County, but we are the capital of New York,
Yeah.
and we got to do a better job. But we got a great sheriff, and you know what? I hope that you'll continue to keep fighting and come back and share with us all the stuff. I'm going to leave you with this because I want the people to know. I want you to say this to me again. There is things you can do, and having anybody tell you there's nothing that can be done is bullshit.
Yeah,
And
you've listen, there's always a solution, and you just have to sometimes, you know, got to think outside the box. You know what I mean? Everything isn't black and white and written down for you. Sometimes you got to come up with your own way of doing it. And you know what? Maybe it won't work in your community, but it'll work in that community. And you talk to other people. But like listen, I tell everybody there's a solution. We just got to sit down, put our heads
yeah,
together, and figure it out. And
even
maybe
if you
it
fail
hasn't been
10
done that
times.
way. But
Yeah,
everybody worries about, well, it's always done this way.
yeah.
I love when I hear
Yeah.
that. But it's
Well,
how we always did it.
Timmy will tell you, I used to
Yeah.
say to them, the worst statement for progress is that's not how we done it before. And
Yeah.
I'd say, I don't give a shit. That's not how we're going to do it today. Because if
Yeah.
you keep, what is, there was that lady that bleached her hair and she did the exercise that said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different outcome, right?
Right.
And that is insane. And that's what government does. Government just continues to try to do the same thing and tries to have no conflict and tries to just get along. They don't like to be questioned. They don't want the public. I used to say, how come more people ain't coming to the ledge meetings? And they'd be like, shh, we don't want nobody to show up. And I go, yeah, no, I do. I want people to know what we're doing. And they used to say, the more they don't know what you're doing, the better chance you got reelected. And I used to go, I don't care about getting reelected. And that's why I like you. And that's why I like David. And as
Yeah.
much as me and David Soares have an issue, a personal one, I think the man did a great job for this county. I think he's going to be missed. I hope Lee Kinlan is going to do well. I also want to say, I want to send my condolences because I'm sure you worked with Alice Green.
Yeah.
It was sad to see that she passed away. I used to say that I almost agree with her on nothing because I used to think that, she had one mission. But damn, whatever that mission was, what a hell of an advocate she was for
Yeah,
the people that
yeah,
she
she was a
supported.
tremendous, tremendous
Yeah.
advocate.
Yeah, and you don't
She'll
have
be
to
missed.
agree. Yeah, you don't have to agree with the advocacy of other people, but you
Right.
can be at awe of how hard
Yeah.
they fight for them. And Alice Green is going to be missed in this capital region. I send my love and prayers to her family and thank her for all the things that she's done. Whether I agreed or disagreed, I certainly admired her stamina. So we appreciate you coming on.
Wait a minute.
And
Wait, 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 wait,
now we're
wait, wait.
throwing you off.
You
McCoy's up
can't.
next.
You
No, I'm
can't,
just kidding.
I was just gonna say, wait a minute. Aren't you gonna ask me the $1 million question?
No, I'm not. You tell me the $1 million question. I don't want to get in
It's
trouble.
it'll be McCoy for the city mayor of Albany.
Really?
I think
I'm
Danny,
not so sure about that.
I think so Danny was on the show a couple of days ago. And I told him before I would throw you off before I asked anything. But I know he's a closet watcher because he seems to know everything I talk about. Danny has, you say what you want about Danny McCoy, but that son of a bitch outfoxed them all. He's in his fourth year term as county exec. Okay. I never thought in my wildest dreams, I was part of that. You know that, right? He was
Yeah,
the chairman of the ledge.
yeah,
I was the deputy majority leader. I watched this whole thing unfold. I said, holy shit, I think this can really happen, right? You had the whole team of people that built the Independence Park. I mean, it was a hell of
yeah.
a plan put together. But he's outfoxed them all. And
I
he's
think.
still
Listen,
standing.
I tell him all the time. I think he would be a great mayor. That's where his passion is, in that city of Albany. He loves that city more than
Yeah.
anybody.
Yeah.
And that's why I keep telling him, do it. Just do it.
So if he does it, I'd be the first one to support him because I think he would do a fantastic job. But then the question is, who would be the police chief?
It won't be me. I can tell you that.
Come on, spill
You
the
kidding me?
beans. I mean,
We'd have a fist fight in the back alley in about 20 minutes.
I can see the two of you guys. Yeah, yeah. You never want him
We
to be your
fight worse than
boss.
brothers now.
Yeah, but now he can't fire you. Shit. I think Danny would. If Danny decides to run for mayor, I think he's going to give him one hell of a run.
Oh yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
it's interesting, this whole airport thing, right? That I've been following in the newspaper. Um, it's a $214,000 a year job. That's a pretty decent salary. I think Danny's in about 185 now, so he's doing okay for himself. Uh, but then I was listening to Vandenberg, and yeah, I'm still a closet Vandenberg listener. See if he beats me up at all. Um, but then they mentioned Phil Calderon for mayor of Albany.
I
And
didn't hear that.
yeah, and I thought to myself, geez, that's pretty interesting. Now,
Yeah.
Phil's a popular guy, right? I'll stand corrected, but I think he's got strong roots in the LGBT community. I think he's always had a strong group there, and the far left liberals. So he would have a pretty solid group of people behind him. So that would be a very interesting race if that took place, right? Calderon versus McCoy.
Well, there's don't forget the other 5 or 6.
Well, I don't think they're relevant. I really don't. I mean, listen, I used to be close with Corey. Okay, um, that guy would sell his firstborn just to get a political title. I lost all respect for him and the rest of them on that board and all. If I know the world's screwed up right now, that you can look and I know that you're a Democrat and I'm a Democrat, but I'm going to say it anyway. I look at this Kamala Harris and think, oh my God, if she was in charge of this country, we should all move to Switzerland or somewhere because we're going to be in some major problems. That's what I think would happen to Albany if any one of those people. I mean, they helped create Albany as it is today, right?
The one thing that I have is that if there's 4 or 5 people, I don't really know what the count is, but if you're that interested in the city, get out there and tell us. Tell us what you can do to help with the crime and give. I'll
Yeah.
take suggestions. Listen, I'm not.
I don't think you have
I'm
them.
an adult. You can give me any idea you want. We'll try it, but no one's talking about that. And that's what's concerning to me is that, I mean, I've had these conversations with Danny. And listen, Danny will be the first to tell you he's not happy that I'm in helping out in Albany because as the county executive, it costs a lot of money.
Yeah,
But
he's
as
a
the
cheap
city,
bastard too.
but as a city taxpayer, he's, super happy that we're in there.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's a lot of those. There's probably thousands of those people that like, well, listen, we're not really happy that he's in there, but I think he needs to be in there. But
Sheriff, I think there's a lot of people that are happy that you're there. I think the Albany PD, the actual police themselves, have no problem with you being there. They don't see a competition. Most people go into policing to be a cop to protect their communities, right? This bullshit about turf stuff, that's all created and there's always a small group of people that start that bullshit. And they have to listen to Kathy. Kathy will direct them on how to police. Okay? They don't have the luxury of having you directing them how to police. Okay, you may be a Democrat. I always thought you're a kind of middle of the road Democrat.
oh,
You're
I
not too,
clearly am.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
not too far left. You're not too far right. You and I are both kind of the same. We don't walk right in the middle of the road because that's where you get hit by cars coming from both directions. But we're on that little side of the line, one
Hmm.
side or the other.
Yeah, you got to
Eh,
bob and weave a little
Yeah,
bit.
you do. But Albany, a sanctuary city, run by a very liberal mayor who has a very liberal following of people. Albany has a huge LGBT community. They all go out and vote. They're not afraid to vote. These left wing people vote. And if you look at how many people live in Albany County and how many registered voters and how many people took to win the primary,
Yeah,
all you got to do is get your couple of your
it was
cousins to go
dismal.
out. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
dismal. You
that
get a
was
couple of your
dismal.
cousins to go out, give them some free hot dogs, and you win the race. And
Yeah, people
so
really, really need to start exercising their right to vote. Everybody screams and yells, they want this, they want that. You got to vote in order to get that.
is Danny
You
in
know?
Chicago?
Yes.
He when he was on the show, he didn't come out and say that he was going to run for mayor. He came out and basically said something to the effect, "If people don't step up,
Right.
That's what he said. Yes.
right,
Yeah.
then I'm going
He
to
said
step
that.
up." My advice to him would be, don't wait for nobody to step up because nobody's going to do it better than you and care more than you. If you want it, go take it.
Mhm.
Because when you stand around and wait, somebody gobbles something up and then you're out the door. I don't think taking the job at the airport was on his plate. I don't. Do I believe that he don't know anything about it? I don't know. Would Sammy Facina not tell Danny that they're kicking Calderon's ass out of the seat? I don't believe that, but I understand politically you got to probably be coy, Dan McCoy, and say I don't know nothing about it. But what would happen if he took that job? See, what happens then is, right now he's the power man, right? Danny's a very powerful guy. You're a very powerful guy. Two powerful guys in Albany County. But once you're no longer the county exec, you're not no powerful guy. I promised him that people will forget his name like they forgot Jerry Jennings. So what happens if he went up to the airport and they appointed him for 3 years? Will the county exec now keep that same board? And then would they say to McCoy, "Hey, Danny, you got planes flying to the wrong city. You're out the door."
Yeah,
Right?
you lost.
Yeah,
He,
it's
You
true
know what I
though. I
blame
mean?
mean,
him when they lose the luggage.
Yeah,
yeah,
Danny.
I don't.
Danny stole my luggage.
Yeah,
I don't know.
like,
It's
yeah.
there's so
I don't know
much.
what his ultimate plan was there. Every time I talk to him, I keep telling him, just run for mayor.
I
Just
say
run
the
for
same
mayor.
thing to him. I say,
Yeah.
look at win or lose on your merits. If he runs. Is Kathy definitely not running, or is she waiting for like Tonko to die to become the congresswoman?
I
Or
I don't know. I think she's made it pretty clear she's not going to. Um,
I mean, it'd be the greatest thing that happened to the city in a long time. I don't know what your relationship is with her, but I think she's been one of the worst mayors the city's ever had. And all you have to do is look at the city and you realize it. But what do I know? I'm from Cohoes, New York. I'm up in the other end of the you know.
yeah, it's a tough time. Listen, what I like what Carmela is doing over there
Oh,
with
she's fantastic.
cleaning the
Fantastic.
streets and everything else. And the thing is, if you want people to have pride in their neighborhood, you got to have it clean, right? You got to have the garbage over there, get the garbage off the street, get the couches off the alleyways and things like that. And it takes a little bit of money. That was one of the things, Sean, that I said, I know you got to get going here, but I wanted to use some of that ARPA money to clean cities. Right, we're
Mhm.
pissing it away at all these crazy projects. Well, let's take $250,000 of it and get dumpsters and clean our cities and our towns and get all this crap out of the way. There's so much crap
I used
lying
to call
around.
you up once
Yeah,
every couple months and ask you to send up a bunch of the Albany County Correction Facility visitors, and they would come and they were good kids. A lot of them were just
yeah,
did something stupid, and
stupid,
they
right?
would clean up my city, and we
Yeah.
would use you. I do it 4 or 5 times a year. Um,
Do you still do that?
No, I don't, mainly because everybody that I have now will slice your throat. It's I don't have that. I used to have a pretty good blend
Yeah.
of inmates, and I don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
So some people call me all the time. They're like, "Hey, can the guys come down and paint some benches in the park?" And we did all the fire hydrants and things like that. I'm
yeah,
like, "Yeah, I don't really think it's advisable right now."
you might not have a fire hydrant, or
Yeah, yeah, right.
so. Hey, look at last time you were here, you said that the county, you were still looking to hire people. Are you still in
Yes.
that same position?
Yes.
Because I know that
Yeah.
we sent a couple people down there, and truthfully, I think 2 kids that we sent down there end up getting on the corrections. So, you
Yeah,
know,
so I'm down about 15 deputies right now. There's a test the end of the month. If anybody's interested in becoming a police officer, not just a deputy, but Cohoes, Watervliet, wherever, they should jump on albanycountycivilservice.com and look for the police exam. I believe it closes like the 29th or 30th, and then that test will be at the end of September. Correction officers, if anyone's interested, we're always hiring. Right now, we're getting an influx of applications because the state decimated the North Country and closed Mount McGregor. So
they're just pathetic.
So, are you getting
that's
inmates from that closed
no,
place?
no. I won't get inmates, but I'll get correction officers.
You will.
Excuse me. All of the counties from us pretty much up, Warren, Saratoga,
Yeah.
Washington. They'll get, a lot of people are applying because otherwise you got to uproot your family and move, right?
Yeah.
What a
Yeah.
shame! What a shame!
But what bothers me, Sean, to touch on that real quick, is this is one of the things that the state is good for, is when they close these places, what that does, it does in fact trickle down to the counties.
Sure it
Now the
does.
county's got to hold inmates longer, which means we need more staff in the jail. So it it has an adverse effect. Everybody just thinks, oh my God, they're going to close these prisons. It's going to save gazillions of dollars. Well, maybe in the state level, but now the county's going to go up.
Sheriff, it isn't saving shit. It's part of their overall plan, which has been in place. Cuomo started all this bullshit. He was a moron at the highest level, and everything was close the prisons, don't put people in jail, don't arrest people. Let's just let them. Our streets are full of bad criminals because we gave those criminals back to the streets.
Yeah,
We shut
sad.
down prisons that were
About
full.
right. About
These
how
weren't
many
prisons that
corrections officers do you think that you're going to pick up for the county jail?
I'm sorry, how many correction officers?
About how many you think?
I don't know. I know that I talked to docs. They were at the Altamont Fair last week, and I actually talked to two of their recruiters, and they said that they've had a lot of applications go to Warren, Washington, Saratoga. I said, we've hired some already, some state
Uh-huh.
COs.
Yeah.
I had one call today, and I don't know how many will come down. I'm not as short as I used to be of COs, believe it or not.
Hmm.
We've done a really good recruiting and retention up there. And the deputies, the problem there is that the state only offers that test once a year. And, when it comes out, we burn through it and then we got to sit there, on our hands for another
I thought
half a
they
year.
I thought they did away with the test because they couldn't hire them.
No, they did that for the COs and then they brought the test back and then they did away with it again and then they brought it back. The
It's just
pilot
stupid.
program, the pilot that they brought out is awesome. What it is, it's more about knowledge and experience. And we look at your resume and we put you in there and we train you. And then if you pass all the basics, you get your civil service, you know,
Most cities
certificate.
don't use the
Yeah.
test. When I was a young kid, I worked as a firefighter in the city of Cohoes, right? And I got laid off. Believe it or not, it was one of the few layoffs in the fire department. And so I was down in Atlanta, Georgia, and inquiring about taking a job on the Atlanta, Georgia Fire Department. They had back then, you took a test, but it wasn't a civil service test. It was a basic, aptitude test. 2 plus 2 is what,
Hmm.
just, but it only equated to 30% of your overall score. And
Yeah,
the highest part of your score is you had to sit down with this commission
right.
and they'd ask you questions. And it wasn't about being a fireman because you were learning to be a fireman. You can't say how this question about firefighting, this question. I wouldn't know. I'm not a firefighter. But they would ask you questions that just common sense stuff
Yeah.
because not everybody's good at taking a freaking test.
Well,
Civil service is outdated. It's like
it's that
everything
very
else.
outdated,
It's
and
like
on
everything
top of
else.
that, not just the testing, Sean, but the physical testing as well is outdated. You got to do 29 sit-ups and 30 push-ups and run a mile and a half. If I got to run after somebody for a mile and a half, we've got bigger problems, But to be able to get over a fence or carry a body, 100 yards, stuff like that would make more
Yeah.
sense. I don't know. We
Yeah.
could find fault. We could
It
go on for hours.
Listen,
Yeah.
all I know is that it's outdated. You're not getting the best quality people. Not everybody's a great test taker. I can tell you, I can line up 50 kids that will flunk a test that become some of the best workers that I've ever
Yeah.
seen. And
Yeah.
I was in the unions for years. I was the mayor. I was the county. I watched these tests. I used to say, "This is stupid. The kid can't be a fireman because he only did 29 sit-ups. I don't know how many sit-ups you do in the middle of a burning building. I
Right.
really don't. It's
Right.
stupid, right?" But
Carry.
hey,
I want
listen,
you to
Sheriff,
carry 200 pounds.
I appreciate you coming
Yeah.
on. And when you and
Thank you.
Big Dan McCoy are going to announce the he's going to be the mayor, you're going to be the police chief.
No, no, no.
I
Don't
want you
even.
to come on. Truth, lies, and political bullshit.
I've got the best job of all of them, and trust
You
me,
know
I
what?
ain't leaving it.
I will tell you that I was one of the first people who said to my dad and a couple of Al Albin and a couple of retired firemen when you were thinking about running for Senate. I said, this is really one of the saddest days for me because this guy belongs right where he is. And although it'd be
Thank
nice to
you.
retire and get another pension and do all that, you would be one guy like I was, stuck in the middle of all these other people. And you would either fall in line or for the rest of your career,
Yeah.
you wouldn't get nothing done. And I couldn't see you being happy, being told
No,
no
no.
when you can't, when you
Exactly.
control the whole entire, you got the ocean
Yeah.
I'd
and
be
you're
in
the
a
big
corner
fish.
over there. They put me in a corner with no staff.
And you'd be unhappy. You would be. You'd be no staff. But if you do decide to do any of those things, come back on the show. Tell us
You
all
got it.
about it. We really appreciate you coming on. We love you, and keep up the great work and keep making Albany County proud. I
All right,
can't tell
thanks
you
for
my
having me.
favorite because then Danny won't come on the show no more. But damn, you're pretty damn close, Danny. I still love you, and I know you're watching from the Kamala Harris playground. And,
Yeah, he's behind the curtain watching.
and
Yeah.
have fun and be careful out there. And come on the show and announce you're going to run for mayor, will you?
Thanks for coming on,
Sheriff, I'll see you later.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Yeah, you
Bye-bye.
too. Hey,
Good night.
Timmy, I want to just tell you. So I'm going to jump over something else. So we got some hot news, and we have the new segment that's submit your tip, and let us talk about it on the show. So today I want to talk about the tip that I got, the hot news that I got, and here it goes. And I think you're going to find this, Timmy, really amusing. So just a couple months ago, we released on the show that the mayor of the city had a brother-in-law who was a code enforcement officer.
Right.
And he had the fewest amount of years. Matter of fact, he just had 2 years on the job.
Right. Yeah.
And the mayor of the city created a job to be the head code enforcement officer.
Yes, that's true. We did that.
And he skipped over the two most senior guys and hired his brother-in-law.
With a raise, higher than
And
these guys.
he provided that magical number that he loves, $20,000 raise, to his brother-in-law, right?
Yes, he did.
So here we go. So today, I'm being told that there is a construction project going on down on the island, Melville Avenue. And the brother-in-law of the mayor, the new boss of the code enforcement, goes down to that site and closes down the site and pulls their permit for violating certain things within the permit, doing work that supersedes the permit, not having certain jobs inspected before they moved on to the next phase of that, right?
Yeah, okay.
So here's the great news. So that company went back and cried to the mayor that they were being unfairly treated, that they only did a couple small things they probably shouldn't have done. And the mayor calls his brother-in-law into the office and scolds him.
Wow.
Don't you touch or bother that construction company.
Okay. And what's the connection?
Well, that construction company is building a house up on Western Avenue.
Oh, really? Is it house? Is it property number 122 or something like that?
Bingo! It's the house that will be one of Keeler's siblings' houses.
Right, his boy, I guess.
And so the company who's breaking the rules that gets cited by code enforcement cries to the mayor, who scolds his brother-in-law, lets them go back to work, even though they're violating all of the other rules
codes
that everybody else would have to been shut down completely, only to find out that it's the company that's building his son's house. Now, that's the hot news for today, Timmy. Submitted by a tip to Sean Morris Podcast at Gmail. So if you have a tip and you want to share it, nobody knows who sends those tips. Completely private. Contact Timmy on his 5th page. Contact me on my Facebook. But better yet, submit it to SHAWNMORSE podcast at gmail.com. And we'll investigate it and share that hot news with all the people watching this show. So don't forget, my friends, take a second, jump over, subscribe to our channel, become part of the Truth, Lies, and Political Bullshit family, and we'll have fun together. So, Timmy, that's all I got for today.
And that's it from me. Okay,
that's it. Nobody's building any house.
But it's been a long podcast, and let's call it a wrap.
Hey, Timmy.
Good night.
Good night. Take care, everybody.